Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode. Collegiate Exclusive is back, and it's not been too long since we last recorded, and we are starting 6 minutes late because Discord just went down on us. But we're here. Everything seems to be working. We'll see how long that holds up, but welcome back to another episode. TJ, my man, we were panicking a little bit getting this thing going, but how you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's always wonderful that something tries to stop us whenever we decide to film this podcast. But hey, it's a pleasure to be here. Also, you used episode, I think, for the first time that we've ever heard on the show. I think I like it. I think we should use it more often. But no, I'm excited to be back.
Yeah, I used it as a text title at one point, but Sepisa, it rolls off the tongue. Like the CEP, it's a good acronym. I'm a big fan of it, and we're rolling now for the fall semester, which is the first thing that we should talk about. We are officially going weekly with our recordings, and it won't be on the same day every week, unfortunately, at least for the first month of recordings, because we've got an insane schedule coming up, and I'll pull up the exact dates that we've decided to record. So today, obviously, is episode number 8 for Collegiate Exclusive, and then we're recording next week on Wednesday, which will be our usual day for the most part, unless there's something unique like a LAN going on, like a Scenic City Invitational going on, where we are going to try to do a live recording that Friday, the 26th, after day 1 of the Scenic City Invitational, and then it's back to Wednesdays for us. So, here we go, TJ. The fall season is officially upon us. Feels like we've had like the last preseason episode for 3 different episodes, but I think the season is finally here.
Oh, I'll be frank. August was boring. It was awful. There's nothing going on. There's really not much to follow. Very few summer events. It's always nice to re-enter the flow of things in the fall. And also for us to be coming at you weekly as well. I'm excited to kind of get to spew even more hot takes, maybe even rage bait just a little further each week. But we'll see. I mean, obviously we have Worlds coming up, which starts on Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Time in the play-ins. And we are anticipating that on Championship Sunday, we are finally going to get a CRL announcement, and we're hoping maybe some other big game announcements as well. So next week's episode should be a perfect summary of all of that. We'll also have our first week of NACE play in the mix, which we're going to talk about briefly today as well. CCS starts league play, or conference play, I should say. We got a lot. It's a lot of fun. Now is finally the time that we get to really start digging into things.
Yeah, and we've had super long episodes as well when there haven't been results to discuss. So I'm interested to see where the episodes go now that we actually do have results trickling in. And those are big headlines when it comes to Collegiate Rocket League starting. But another headline, this is outside of Rocket League, but it does pertain. The Collegiate Esports news platform just announced that it is returning for the fall semester. And this came out 40 minutes ago, and I was preparing the graphics and the run of show for this, so I didn't get to read the letter that Sheridan put out, which is also why it says time for another without an O in the graphics below. I was kind of rushing there, but I didn't get to read the letter. But this is out right now on the Collegiate Esports News website as well as Twitter page. And TJ, I don't know if you got to read the letter, but I mean, CEN being back, I know is just big in general.
Of course. So I actually got to read through it maybe about 10 minutes before we actually went live. I actually didn't even see it until about 10, 15 minutes ago. Obviously, Sheridan has talked about Collegiate Esports News returning after a while. They obviously mentioned before that this letter came out that there was a lot that had to be worked on up and down from the top side and the amount of burnout they were getting to just the general support and payment of their team. So I'm just happy.
Oh, did we lose you, TJ? Oh, yeah, so TJ has frozen back. Dude, the technical difficulties today are actually insane. Like, Discord going out on us 10 minutes before we were about to go live, and then coming back, like, 5 minutes, making us 5 minutes late is, I don't know, that bodes poorly for the rest of this broadcast. But, I mean, I think we share similar sentiments on this, how CEN was a big pillar of the Collegiate Esports ecosystem, just because of how important it is to have media coverage and get these stories of players and that out to the mainstream, while Okay, Dylan and Kev Dog are also saying it's Discord, so we may have to switch back to our Google Meet solution here if this does continue. But we'll see if it happens again right now. Shout out Discord. We take it for granted sometimes. But back to it. I'll put the letter back up on screen so we do have our feeds back. So that way you can all read through it as well. But this is such a big return to the ecosystem, and we've talked about it before. I think both of us have backgrounds in journalism. This podcast was created in the spirit of journalism, and so telling here are the values right here.
Okay, yeah, Discord's broken.
Okay,
the Discord is still broken. Yeah, you just cut out for me too.
All right, well, we should in that case switch back to our Google Meet solution. So I think I'm gonna put it on my break screen real fast, and then we get back to our Google Meets call. That way we don't risk Discord messing up on us. So everyone, sit tight for just a second. Yeah, we're gonna sort out the ghost in TJ's lab as well. So give us just a moment. We'll be right back with the podcast. Back to the topic at hand. Collegiate Esports News is back, and I wanted to show at least their values one more time as we're losing time because of all these technical difficulties, but I like the values section of this letter the most. Telling stories the purpose, getting it right as well, elevating our craft and uplifting the community. And I think for an organization of student journalists, I think establishing this sort of foundation is really important for CEN to become a legitimate source of news for the greater esports community as well. So I'm excited that CEN's back, and I think that's the gist that everyone can take away from our discussing this.
Yeah, also, you will be able to donate to CEN as well. They did mention fundraising at the very bottom of that, and it will be announced very soon. So keep an eye out on that. Make sure you're following CEN on all your socials, because they are the one group who has done news in our scene really well. There really hasn't been another group who's even attempted to cover that. And so there's a lot of admiration and dedication that I have and that they have on that side to be doing what they do. So go support them.
And let's see, we're going to do a quick run through next of the registration numbers, which actually is something that CEN had covered in the past. So I definitely stole this idea from them in looking at registration numbers. And I'm going to go through all four again because it has updated since the last time we talked about it on just Friday. Like over the weekend, everyone got a lot more rosters. So real quick, including pending rosters, it's going to say 196 here for the NECC, but including pending rosters, they are at 280 Rocket League signups at the moment. The NECC is killing it. They are number one right now. This is NACE. They're at 60 for their Varsity Premier, and for Varsity Plus, they're at 60 as well, which I think there is a cap, but for Club, they show spots as well. So NACE is doing quite well too, and then ECAC at 92 teams at the moment, and this is a lot of lower level schools, but Columbia still there. They have always been an ECAC school. Huntington is in there, Bruton Parker as well, and Stockton too, which I've heard their starting lineup isn't completely coming back, so it's something we need to talk about in a moment. And then PCL play versus 37 teams, which is a big jump from the last time we talked about it in Premier, and then 41 teams in ranked. So not bad for play versus, honestly, as much as we were talking about how their registration numbers weren't looking that good.
Yeah, no, I'm not afraid to say I was jumping the gun a little optimistically last week, talking about play versus numbers. I am very happy to see that every league is having what I believe, based on my memory, is some of their best years. NECC should break a record. I'm sure they will.
Yeah.
NACE looks wonderful, hitting all of their caps, which means that after we talked this summer, or over the last month, I should say, about the deletion of prize pools, what are they going to do with all that money? Well, they definitely have all that money. There's no concerns about that. So now it's a matter of what are they going to do with it. ECAC, again, playing that third fiddle to NECC and NACE, you really don't have a choice but to kind of have those lower numbers. But given what we're used to seeing, their competition still looks good. Bruton Parker has not normally been an ECAC. That is a new addition, as it's normally been the Akron, Ball State, and Concord show. So it's nice to see that we're going to have some more CRL top 16, top 20 competition. We'll have to see how Stockton does as well with whatever roster they come out with. And I think, again, their main priority is just to stay above play versus right now, which it's by a pretty good margin. Now, granted, we do still have some time before everything finally settles, but so far so good across all four.
And so we'll keep an eye on those registration numbers as NACE has already closed. PCL, their premier division, closed today. Ranked closes next week. And then NECC closes next week as well, I believe, as they begin their division assignment matches coming up pretty soon here. So it's just something to keep an eye on and stay aware of, which league kind of has the most array of skill level, I think, is a good way to say it. So that's just a small segment. We'll kind of breeze past that. Yes, my mustache is gone, guys. It got annoying, so it's gone. That's the other headline. But on to the big news, because we finally have set rosters for pretty much every single CRL team in the top 50 or so. So let's look through them, and we can spend as much time as we want, I think, on this. I need to make it look pretty real fast, but it's going to look a little jank. I couldn't find the best way to present this, so it's in a spreadsheet. When in doubt, I default to a spreadsheet. But TJ, we finally got rosters set. I think Fisher is the only big one that is still up in the air right now. Even Baylor has a new third, if we want to start there, with JT maybe not being completely confirmed, but on the NACE on the NACE roster, he is the third supersonic legend alongside Andy and Hoxer.
Oh, I'm easily going to start with Baylor here. Talking about them and St. Edwards is where I was going to spend a lot of my time, because whenever you've made the decision to bring in such great talent, Fisher can be thrown in this as well. You bring in such high-level talent at the top of Rank X in their respective regions, and then you have a hard time finding that third. It's a big deal. Now, granted, JT is still SSL. It's kind of unconfirmed as to how high JT is, and we're going to talk about this in a bit as well. Baylor will play Bruton Parker tonight, which I think is a really, really good benchmark as to how they're going to fare, because we haven't seen their roster play in any tournaments. We haven't seen them be like grinding anything out. Like even the crack collegiate showcase, St. Edwards has played. And we have that type of film. St. Edwards is not afraid for a show match, as we've seen not only one on your stream, but we're going to see another one later tonight as well, against another benchmark roster and a new look Kennesaw State. So with all these new 2 out of 3 moves coming through, that's my first point, is looking at George Mason, looking at Indiana Tech, looking at Baylor, looking at St. Edwards. Those are the rosters I'm staring at.
These are alphabetical to avoid any rankings bias, because I know even when I say that teams aren't in any particular order, people will still jump straight to assuming it's ranked. But I'm going to run through these really quickly, just so we have the final comprehensive list of rosters, just verbally said with a visual alongside them. And then we can touch on our highlights, because we have done so much roster coverage over the course of the last several months. But Akron, they're staying the same here. Ball State Black, I think, is a very underrated roster. With Phoebes should be on here as well. I didn't put 4 players, but Phoebes, Yags, and Ultor, with Variety potentially playing with the A team is what I've heard some rumblings of, which we can get confirmation on that when Ball State does end up playing. But that Ball State Black team is a sleeper top 32 team. I think I had them in my my top 32 preseason rankings. Then Baylor we've touched on. Boise State's the same. Bruton Parker Christian University is pretty much the same from what we have said. Brock, though, is one to talk about. It's a Canadian school with Soares, Lev, and Sai. I got this from the colleague top 50 that Dart put out today, his personal preseason rankings. And this is a lineup that I had definitely not had on my radar, TJ, if you know much about them.
I mean, I got to work with Soares this last RLCS split. I'm very familiar with this team and what they've been building. I will be honest, I also forgot about this school when I was making my rankings. I still do wonder if they are a top 32 roster. I think it might be a little bit of a stretch until they finally hit the pitch, but it's a very exciting roster nonetheless. I also want to quickly add on the Ball State point as well.
Yes.
From what I have been told, Variety is substituting with the A team and is actively trying out for a spot as we speak. That is the news that I have been told, and I want to kind of cut on that point because Phoebes has been playing for Black, including in their most recent Game 5 win I forget who they just beat, but I saw him talking about it on Twitter, and I know he was playing in that series.
It's Drexel.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've heard it's for Wova as well. Do you know why that is? If Wova is taking a step back, or...
I mean, obviously my source is in-house, so like I know that the fact is true, but I don't know why. If I had to put money on it, Ball State, and this is me taking a stab at things. BK is a winning director, has a winning mentality. He's a great director, and I think now it might be time that Ball State's trying to crack down on their own team. And really make sure they're getting the best quality forward. And now I don't know how much Wova's been playing the game, but if you're going off of performances in the last 2 years, last 3 years, Wova has not really held a candle to Oath and Guh. Originally, it was an Oath-led team. Guh has really stepped up in the last 6 to about 8 months with the RLCS split. Looks really good on the field. So that's why I think it is, and that's what Ball State Black, all those players have that mentality of like, hey, something could change. We are next up. Who's going to be the one to take the spot? And Ball State signed that, Phoebes and all those recruits for a reason.
Yeah.
And I think it was for this right here. I think there may be Wova halfway out the door. I don't know yet. That's just me speculating, but it's the way it feels.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose you don't sign with a school to be on the C team, you sign with a chance to play on the A team, whether that's starting on the academy roster and working your way up, or going straight to the A team. So, okay, story to look out for there. We can get more information on that going forward. But back to the rosters, I'll keep running down the list. Carthage here, saw him play WCTC with the Veil Corrupt and X-Ray lineup. I think this is a top 48 team. Cleveland State suffered a bad loss in CCF. They lost to CSU Northridge, but this is still a team you'll need to look out for. Columbia College, Gusky Excelst, and Rhyolite. Big pickup. I have them top of my rankings pretty much. Then Concord, we know. Cumberland Academy. Here, I think we can take another pit stop with these guys, because on Twitter, they think very highly of themselves, and it's an instance where I think they need a resume to crack into the top 32, like they've been commenting they maybe should be. But Hotshot, Gnosis, and Aurora, we talked about them over the summer when these were announced, TJ. These are good signings for an academy roster.
I don't disagree by any means. I mean, I've enjoyed watching Aurora play. Hotshot and Gnosis are great talents as well. I do want to say this because I'm going to make a negative point. It's going to sound like I'm hating, but I want to preface it first.
I'll put the cams on the screen then.
I want to root for Cumberland. Do not get me wrong. Both the academy roster and the main roster, I love what Coach Claypool does, and I trust in the people that he brings into that program, because it takes a lot to survive in that Cumberland program. They do more than any other school by far in terms of team chemistry and scrims, and they work harder. I'm willing to see that, say that, admit that. I don't agree, though, with going on Twitter and saying, we're going to show them wrong. We're going to prove them wrong, because I got to be so honest. The teams who talk like that in our recent memory have not performed well. That's just frankly how it is. And for Cumberland Academy specifically, I believe that they can back up their talk. I believe it's possible, and I know they've been grinding. And again, I want to root for them. But don't be surprised if CRL Open 1 comes around and everything hits the fan, or NACE Play hits the fan, because this league and this entire group of teams in the top 16, top 48, top 32, they are dangerous, and they're not going to give you that spot easily by any means. So I'm willing to hear it out, but I'm not with them right now. That tweet alone kind of sent me off the trail, but we'll have to see.
Okay, I respect the take, and I always enjoy when players do let rankings kind of fuel the fire. I've been told so many times by a lot of different players how my predictions videos and my power rankings it inspire them, or like make them frustrated enough to the point, like positive frustration, where they're trying to prove me wrong. And so I respect that mindset. And we'll see if it happens with Cumberland Academy. With Cumberland A, same lineup, same with the Davenports pretty much, minus Tater, leaving Davenport red, but they'll still be a really solid lineup. Drexel added guard over the summer and looked okay in CCS. I don't know if they were locked in for the summer season, and they've just recently lost to Ball State Black, but that's still a Game 5 loss against a pretty good team. ETSU playing tonight on the MrBepic stream. Landon and his two Frenchies, Kisai and Faris, joining him. Fisher College, this isn't set yet, but from what I've heard, Royalis, Adam, and False, I think, are the most likely trio. And apparently Justice might play on Ping. That's what I was told, if you can believe that.
Yeah, I was told Justice is not in the States, so I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure by law that he will be ruled out of much of the competition. At least their main leagues. I do not believe they're allowed to play NECC or NACE or any of those with Justice. Maybe the CRL opens, but I doubt it. I haven't looked at the rulebook
Knowing
yet.
Psionics, they probably
True,
would let someone
true.
play from Europe in the CRL Opens.
Well, whenever we get these CRL announcements, there's a world where, you know what? Sure, I could see it happening. I think my biggest takeaway from the list specifically with Fisher is that Adam should be playing with that roster.
Yeah.
He is needed next to Reales, in my opinion, as the next talent up is not rank X or at least up towards rank X level. And that's not a diss by any means, just an experience factor that Adam brings to the table. It scares me a little bit. But now on the other side, going down a roster, I
Yeah.
also want to bring up both Florida and George Mason. With Florida specifically, we've talked about Sap since the summer. I'm very excited to see Sap's kind of main seasonal debut. Has looked decent thus far. I expect Florida to bring maybe a candle to Mizzou for the SEC title, which I know I caught flack for that on last episode, but I'm still going to stand on that because I believe in it. I think Sap's a talented player and can learn quickly.
Yeah.
And it is an upgrade in history for Florida as well. And then with George Mason, I mean, Kinsey and Krasix, this is a roster who has never played together based off my research. And also, if memory is playing, which won't be until Worlds is over, because
Right.
obviously he is all the way in Lion right now. I'm excited to see that roster at full force. They're going to be probably one of the biggest sleeper teams in the top 16.
Yeah, I think once Memory gets back and they do start grinding as a lineup, they will climb the rankings. But that's why they're so low in a lot of our rankings right now, is because Memory won't play until probably the start of October, honestly, depending on how the events calendar shakes out. So yeah, just something to note. And this is something I got from Dart's rankings today. Apparently, if CRL League play comes back, CG has said that this Illinois State roster will compete.
What a throwback for Illinois State to bring this roster back. I mean, CG and Sith have been involved in Illinois State for, I think this is going to be their third year now. I think it's No Mansion's second, if my memory serves me correct. So this is nice to see Illinois State still competing, and this is a roster that you may catch them in a top 32 spot in an open. And they may end you. They may just catch you off guard in a best of 3, and they may take it first game, and then at that point it's too late. There's totally a world where this roster can do that to you. That's obviously if they're all playing. With the way that it sounds, with CG saying that Illinois State's roster would only play if there is CRL, that makes me a little concerned about the hours. But raw talent, there's no questions asked about this team.
And moving on, Indiana Tech also playing tonight on my stream. Bluey, Reshiram, and Velocity, two of the biggest import pickups, I think, of the offseason. Iowa State's always worth a nod. Midas Vanishing Crazy, always floating around the top 48 mark. And then IPN, Burros Blancos, Mexican University, Storm Betrayed, and Brawl, and they don't play in much outside of CRLs, so I never really know how to keep up with these guys. But they're always in the conversation for a run in a CRL Open. James Madison, minus Pigeon, plus Fright, who's a 2K freshman. And then Kaiser, a Florida school that did pretty well in the spring, and I expect to also be one of those names that kind of pops up for a random run pretty deep into a CRL Open. Kennesaw State picking up Kronovi, again, one of the bigger names being added to a lineup. Beastie joining LCU, another import player. And then Leslie is a team that you were high on, TJ. If you wanna stop the train to talk about them, because Colat, Swaz, and Bubble as that trio, I think are going to be very good this year.
Yeah, I can bite my tongue on the other teams because we've talked about them 1,000 times, but
Yeah.
I am going to speak highly on this Leslie roster. Swaz and Kalat are very, very talented players with very nice rank A level RLCS experience. This is, again, one of those teams that on paper you might not recognize them. You might not instantly be like, yeah, I know these guys. I think they're going to be really good together, but they committed together to Leslie and with Bubble as well, who's also a very talented player. I 1000% think that this is going to be a team that contends in the top 32. It's why I had them ranked right at 32. It is CRL. And like I said about Cumberland Academy, and also like I'm going to say about Indiana Tech, the league is unforgiving. And no matter how much you like to talk or kind of like flex on the rest of the league with your signings or your experience, that can all just simply fall away.
Yeah.
And all it takes is one decent performance or one bad performance as well, and that can make or break your season, especially if the point system comes back into CRL and you mess up on Open 1, your seeding is chalked, your future seeding after that will still be chalk regardless of what you do. And you can miss out on champs that easily. You can miss out on top rankings that easily. So I am very high on this Leslie roster. Again, this is why I had them right at 32. They are my main sleeper pick. I will talk highly of them compared to other schools we've brought up around that range. But it's a brand new year, and we don't know the format yet either. So we'll see.
That's why it's so important to have those different avenues to lands and bigger prizes. Because if maybe you do have your CRL season chalked, even though that is the premier competition, you still got your NACE, your NECC, your other leagues to fall back on. But Maryland, I tried out a new third, actually. They played on my stream as part of the Nightlights Invitational, the CCS non-conference tournament. Picked up Cozy P. They're trying him out instead of Waiters. So I don't think that's a massive upgrade that'll propel them into like the top 40 or anything like that, but definitely worth a look at if you are putting rankings together. Then Maryville staying the same. Michigan State added Drewy, and then I'm not sure if they're starting 3 just yet, whether it's Knock or Morvu. So waiting on official competition to have that confirmed. Bubs is back in the starting lineup for Missouri, despite his announcement that he would be retiring and moving to Valorant, kind of akin to what happened with No Mansion, how he announced the same thing and now might be competing for Illinois State. And then Mount Aloysius. This is one we've not talked about the full lineup yet, TJ, with Pigby, Snizzy, and Skippy being the trio at Mount Aloysius. This is a sleeper top 40 team.
Oh, easily a team that's going to threaten the top 40, top 48. Pigby and Skippy together should be a lot of fun to watch. Skippy has always been a contending player in our LCS. I think it's always just mattered on who Skippy's teamed with in terms of how far they've gone. So I believe that Skippy is a big team-based player. So depending on how Mount Aloysius have decided to build this team, which we now finally have, it feels like it's going to be the Skippy show. It feels like Skippy will lead this team offensively. And I don't think that's a bad thing by any means. You can rely on Snizzy and Pigby without a problem. And if Skippy gets to have kind of free will in the offensive half, this team becomes a lot more dangerous. Again, I'm thinking losers bracket. I'm thinking best of 3s.
Yeah.
Even early on in a losers bracket, best of 5. That can happen. And Bepic, I also am going to add on to what Bluey said in chat. I'm a Moorview advocate, so I have to bring this up. If it is a Moorview start, I will be honest, I would be shocked if Nock does not earn that starting spot based on their history competitively. But I'm a Moorview advocate, so if he finally earned that spot, then I'm happy for it. But we'll have to see, because that's just what obviously Bluey and the Indiana Tech guys are saying.
Yeah, if you want both mine and TJ's thoughts on the Michigan State starting lineup debate, I think that was episode 4. We had that conversation. We both made our points for Nock and Morvu, but we'll see what Coach Dimmer decides with Michigan State. Northwood, the same. Oklahoma Christian, the same. Ole Miss, the same, despite teasing us with S5 Cosmic. They announced that he's not arriving until spring, so C-Money is back in the starting lineup there. Penn State is the same if you've been watching them over the summer, and I believe spring as well. I think that's the same trio with Nitrous leading with, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, Tree and Kiliex, but Penn State, that's a team that can threaten the top 48. Rochester Christian, the same with Magic, essentially retired. St. Clair Gold, True, Fatal Leaf, and Christian is the starting lineup that I've been told. So they're always a threat to the top 30. San Diego State adding Sean B to a Zap and 5 stars. Shawnee State's losing Royales to Fisher. Spooky subbing in. And these guys, I'm going to switch screens really fast. They are actively recruiting for spring. Slayer asked me if I could show this, or at least sent it to me, and I decided to show it. So hey, if you're a player out there for spring 2026, there are a lot of good schools to look at. Shawnee State is one of them, and they are looking at picking up a third. So Spooky is not the long-term answer, TJ, if you can believe that.
There's, well, I'm going to glaze over that first point. There is a lot of teams who are going to be heavy recruiting for spring. There's a lot of rosters with high rank A or rank X level talent who completely dropped the ball on a third man. So for Shawnee State's sake, I hope they're able to grab another rank A talent. And I think it's very possible when you have programs like St. Edwards and Baylor, who, based off of the kind of pool of players left, I think they're going to have to import in the spring. I think they're going to have to bring in Europeans. Both of them will. Because I can't think of any other pros who are going to be actively looking. There is a world where Kofor potentially joins the fray. That's the only one that we've been told that's like still kind of be on the lookout for heading into spring. But RLCS, again, they're going to make their announcement about next season. And from what I hear, it's going to be starting sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
So I don't know if spring is going to really open up any RLCS talent per se. I think we're going to get more bubble players from EU to kind of come and jump over. But time will tell. And going down the list with these rosters as well.
Yep.
Again, St. Clair Green, no surprises there. St. Edwards, big move bringing Noli in, who has looked up and down so far. We will see St. Edwards again tonight play Kennesaw State.
Yeah.
At least when I watched the last show match, Noli left a lot to be asked for. Left a lot to be kind of dreamt of in terms of how this roster could work. Tater looks like he's learning. I've seen him posting a lot. He does what I want players to do. His posts on Twitter are not about the rankings. They're not about, oh, we deserve or we should be this. He is just saying he's happy to work. He's happy to grind. Yeah. He's happy to learn. And he has faith in himself. And because of that, I'm a Tater believer. And I'm going to be like that until he eventually is replaced. Or who knows? Maybe it could be a Helix situation. Maybe he becomes a starter. Wellis looks really good, though. I have to make that point. He looks incredible right now.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch them tonight. That is going to be a very good slate on Monday Night Lights, which we can infuse next up, since this is my channel and I can rearrange our run of show, I think. But finishing the roster conversations, Syracuse adding Tiz and Lesser to play with Gababy. They look pretty good so far. UNC Charlotte staying the same. WCTC adding Geo and Neeks. And this is a roster that I think I've got in my top 40 at the moment. And it didn't make it to my top 32, but I was definitely debating who to put in that 32nd spot. WCTC was one of those teams. They look very good so far on my stream. West Virginia next up. Gyro's officially a starter. Wichita State, I believe it's Boone, Mace, and Knight. I think Kappa's the fourth man on that Wichita State team, but again, unconfirmed. And did Daunt rebrand?
I mean, last time I saw them play, he was under Matt. So okay. I'm just going to throw that in there.
There we go. I did not know he rebranded, so Matter as well, maybe. Winthrop, yeah, top 8 team for sure. Garrett, GT, Carell, and Percy. And then York is a Canadian college that Bosco is attending with, I'm assuming, Nitro and Noah, who I'm not familiar with, but I think if you follow the bubble scene, you'll know who Bosco Boy is.
Yeah, I can say this. We have played this York roster. I think we played them 4 times in the Crack College Showdown. I am not opposed to what I'm seeing from this roster. I think they have the potential to scheme their way into a top 50 spot. By no means is it guaranteed, as Bosco is the only clear shining light on this roster. And that's not a diss. That's experience-based only. In play, okay, this is going to sound like a diss, but again, I promise it's not. On the field, Bosco is still the only main threat. But again, they can scheme something up because I know Bosco. I know how talented of a mind and of a player that he is. I'm excited for that roster, and I think they're going to recruit really heavy as well. I think Bosco's going to have rank X teammates by the spring, or potentially maybe rank A teammates at the bare minimum. So we will see kind of what happens with that York roster. But I just wanted to throw in that little tidbit of insider info. They look decent, and they did qualify for the main event for Cracked as well. It was top 16. They made it in 15, right above Winthrop Academy and right behind Cumberland. So they're in a good spot.
Well, that is a range right there, Winthrop Academy to Cumberland, but
that's 14, 15, 16.
Fair enough. And then also worth noting the teams that lost players. Edgewood College losing Pincus Cat to the University of North Dakota. I'm not sure where Bryant's going. That's unconfirmed. Timmy is the now coach of Carthage. And Southern Miss lost Melodic, who's on the Kennesaw State C team, which is definitely an under the radar team at the moment. And then Astro, we talked about that Twitter drama, is no longer at Southern Miss. And then Stockton had Top Cheese graduate, and Deck is no longer enrolled. Anthony 8 Pizza confirmed that for me when I asked him about it. After we had them in our top 32, uncertain if the rosters were changing, but now we know that the Stockton 8 team is definitely different.
Yeah, they had to have a complete rebrand and restart. They also lost their manager, which is Valk. It's one of my close friends, and somebody who I believe is actually the glue of that Stockton team. I think Valk is a really good reason as to why Deck was able to commit there. I think why that roster decided to keep playing, I think, was a lot due to Valk. So with Valk now going down to Florida for college, FAU specifically, And then Top Cheese leaves. Deck, we believe, is still there. It's a little confusing. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to grab any of those guys back, especially if they can only like really put up some rank C talent or something like that. But I also see Bryant talking about Edgewood, so
Yeah.
I'll let you talk about that.
Yeah, so this is live collegiate exclusive information. Bryant is still at Edgewood. Last I had heard, he was going elsewhere, exploring his options, but it's him and Fluffy at Edgewood. No third is what Bryant says. So I guess Edgewood is still a school to keep an eye on. If Bryant is there, I thought they had lost that full lineup that kind of burst onto the scene in January and stayed near the top. So keep an eye out for Edgewood. Good piece to build around in Bryant's. And to answer your question, Lunges in chat, rank A, B, X are 6-man's ranks, which is like an alternative to ranked, where you get 6 guys in a lobby and of similar skill level, and they play matches to see who the best players are. So it's like an alternative ranking system. Rank X is the best, then rank A is the next best, then B plus, B, and then it doesn't matter after that. So, yeah, transfers are very common in Collegiate RL right now.
Really?
That's just where the scene is at. But, yeah.
I was going to say the opposite.
Really? I mean,
Well,
this has been an insane transfer season.
We're talking between schools, though, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you compare it maybe to traditional sports,
debate.
Definitely, yeah, here we go. Live debate on Collegiate Exclusive. I think compared to like football or basketball, you don't get a ton of transfers, but I mean, we've still seen some pretty high profile changes and some guys that have been to like 2 or 3 schools in a couple of years of going to college. So I mean, I think it's fairly common.
We won't waste too much time on this. I'm just going to throw this point in real quick. I can't remember a player who's gone to 3 colleges other than T. Carell. So Polar as well, I believe. So other than them,
I mean, at the highest tier, I can't think of any. Tater's been to several.
Of course.
I think maybe Knight was only at 2 schools then. I don't have a good database of knowledge on that side, but I do know of some examples. Like Tater was at Michigan Tech, then Davenport, now St. Edwards.
We could be in the middle.
Yeah, we can shelve this as well and figure it out at a later
back
date.
To this maybe over the fall and spring break. We'll have to come back to this, but we got a lot to keep going through, so
yes.
We'll keep moving.
All right, so CCS results we can kind of run through. I don't have a list of super notable results.
Nightlights Invitational.
But yeah, I've got the Nightlights Invitational results right here. So this was on my stream on Friday night. 3 game 5s out of 4 best of 5s. So Charlotte barely escaped from Texas A&M and then beat San Diego State in the finals. And then in both of those series, they were down 2-1. And they ended up coming back and winning in game 5. Maryland looked very good against San Diego State. They were trialing Cozy P and went up 2-0 against the Aztecs before being reverse swept. And Hexy said it in an interview after they 3-0'd Texas A&M in the consolation game that they should have won that series against San Diego State. So Maryland looks decent. Charlotte looks pretty good. San Diego State also looks pretty good. And it just that just further confuses my my like 32 through 38 rankings right now.
Yeah, when we first started getting into the whole rankings and power ranking side of things, the school that we talked about being the most inconsistent within our bubble was Alabama. We talked a lot about that school being really great in the SEL, then all of a sudden losing to some random like GC2s, GC3s. And now as we've kind of gotten to climb up and keep ranking higher and higher, Charlotte is now that team without any hesitation. They are easily, in my opinion, the most confusing team to rank. I was pretty low on them coming into this season because I was high on them last season. And then they come in and they, granted, I did say there was a real shot they lose against A&M. They did go game 5. I'm still going to stand on that point. But the San Diego game 5 win, that caught me completely off guard.
Yeah, that was a good series from them. A couple of blowout games that kind of interrupted the flow of things, but Charlotte recovered well, and they ended that series with 2 consecutive blowout wins of San Diego State, who I was talking to 5 Stars about it. He said they lost focus in comms, and it kind of slipped away from them, but that's still a good win for Charlotte, looking as good as they did. So I'm glad to see them kind of getting back into the rhythm of the fall semester. And then I'm going to put the CCS spreadsheet up on screen. I'm going to kind of take a glance over because there were some results I can point out immediately. So definitely jump on a result that catches your eye, TJ. But Illinois 3-0ing Utah, a great result. Purdue with Plain now at the helm, beating Colorado's temporary roster is what I saw Colorado tweeting out is a pretty big result. And then South Carolina lost in Game 5 to Clemson. That was probably the biggest upset of the week.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going to start. Florida also managed to 3-0 Arizona at the bottom of the column that you're currently in. That was a big one, in my opinion, at least in this first column. Also, Oklahoma going to 5 against NC State. That's the type of match, along with Alabama, Louisville. Those are the types of games that we care about and that nobody else really follows. But those are big for CCS, especially given for how those schools are going to do in their conferences.
I gotta know what happened to the Bulldogs, man. A rivalry game like that, getting 3-0'd. What happened?
Okay, let's be completely honest. Tech has had 4 rank B players at least, or rank B plus players in the last 3 years, and UGA has had 2. So this was unfortunately a talent thing. I must be honest. I did hear I think there was 2 overtimes in this game. So I will say that it was a closer series than the 3-0. And the Dogs, obviously, they had their best showing on that Night Lights showcase.
Yeah.
But then the third, which I'm forgetting the name that he had in game. But their third, it was Koopa Troopa Mirrored, and then the new player. The new player did not show up for this game. They showed up basically at the minute of start time. So no warm up. I can at least cope with that. But that's a big sleeper result that no one else is going to really care about.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much like that. That's where we're at with a lot of the results so far. We don't have any big time series being played out. I think Missouri and Akron might be playing as we speak. I can't remember what time that was supposed to start tonight. So that result should be coming in. We'll talk about it probably in the next podcast. Drexel going to 5 against UTA is a little surprising considering where Drexel is supposed to be. In the rankings, and they lost in Game 5 to Ball State. So Drexel, I can't make head or tail out of them right now. With Guard joining the lineup, taking Barron's spot after Barron graduated, like I just don't know what to think of them when they're going to 5 with UTA, and then I mean going to 5 against Ball State Black isn't a bad result, but it's still not a win.
If Charlotte is our most inconsistent top 64 team pick, I think Drexel is easily the most inconsistent top 48 pick. Both those rosters have the same level of ups and downs. They look really good at times, and then they look the complete opposite at times. Also, to answer Lunge's question in chat, we are going to talk briefly about the NACE Super Conference whenever we get to our players and teams of the week.
We can move on pretty shortly.
Yeah, I was about to say, we're going to get onto it pretty soon. I will say this as well, just because this is a personal thing. Buzz at GSU is back. Very happy to see those guys back. They 3-0'd Middle Tennessee. And also something else worth mentioning. Again, more sleeper results, right? GCU White loses to USF. That's a USF team without SAP. And also USF then went and they lost to UCF. So very confusing Florida results there.
Florida's always up in the air as to who the best team down there is. So Florida's a good state to watch for talent, though, as it's piling up in the southernmost state. So no, that's CCS results right now. I think we've got. I think we can talk about NACE next up after. Yeah, I think we can talk about NACE because I do want to go over the schedule. They are the first big conference to release their schedule because their signups ended the earliest of all the big alphabet soups. So let's jump into that because there are some big games tonight starting pretty soon. It'll be going on during the show matches this is the super conference right here. So this is essentially their top division. And I mean, Winthrop versus St. Clair right off the bat, Baylor versus Bruton Parker, Maryville versus Cumberland, Lubbock Christian and Shawnee State, and then Davenport Red, which is the B team, it gets cut off, versus West Virginia. Like, these are good matches.
Yeah, I'm going to be watching that St. Clair Winthrop with a very, very close eye. I hate that nobody is streaming it to any of our knowledge.
Yeah.
I would imagine St. Clair's student team is probably going to cover it. And if they don't, that'd be a tragedy. So we'll have to see if they go live later tonight. I believe that match is at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. But this right here is a beautiful potential grand final for a CRL Open or maybe even champs whenever things come down to it. But we'll see. Also, some big sleeper matches as well. Baylor with their low SSL third. Again, this is what I talked about earlier in the show. Bruton Parker is a really good test team. These are only best of fives, however, so the content isn't as peak. And I have a bad feeling that Baylor is going to go up in a pretty dominant 2-0, and then maybe Bruton Parker fights back for a game. It's hard with these new rosters. Also worth noting, Maryville with Ixo, who is currently in France. I don't know who Maryville's going to play with tonight, honestly. It looks like it's somebody named
Kinch?
Yeah, I'm very confused as to who this is, so we'll have to see.
Yeah, well, we'll keep an eye on that. We'll talk results next week when we do our recording on next Wednesday. But this is the rest of NACE. You can see Rust Belt Conference has partnered. The Union 10 Conference, which I don't know if this has any affiliation with a traditional sports conference, but it's good. I mean, you've got Wichita State varsity, Cleveland State, Missouri, George Mason in here, North Texas as well, which is a pretty good roster. This is a solid lineup.
Not to mention that there's another very solid conference right under that as well. The MAC has basically called themselves ECC, and they will now be competing. It should be the Akron and Ball State show, but there is some sleeper rosters in there. Bowling Green last year, especially around the time that Bluegrass Boost Battle came up, they were a huge sleeper team that got on a run. Eastern Michigan, a bunch of rank grinders. I see them in Kent State all the time in ranked. NIU is a sleeper roster.
Yes.
Not as talented as the Union 10 overall, but it will still be a very fun one to watch.
I mean, I think it's definitely Ball State and Akron at the top, and then a fight for third in this conference. But it's a quality fight for third. I don't mind some of those middle of the table battles. It does a lot of separation of kind of the ranks 40 through 64 in the CRL space. So this is one to keep an eye on as well. And then you get to your regular East conferences, which these are your standard NACE schools with FIU, James Madison, Kaiser's up there. Shenandoah, ETSU here, and ETSU versus Leslie is going to be a fun one whenever that does end up happening in East 2.
Yeah. Also, I want to talk about, I'm not sure what happened because that's Siena Heights, that's Saints RL. I don't know what happened with the seeding between East 1 and East 2, but East 2 is severely more stacked than East 1, in my opinion. Because East 1, you're looking at Kaiser, you're looking at JMU, you may be looking at FIU, you may be looking at Conestoga, but East 2, ETSU, Leslie, Siena Heights, Florida Southern, Kennesaw State, those are more SEL sleeper rosters, those last two. But still, this is crazy. Also, Grand Valley State is in there as well, so this will be a big sleeper conference to look out for.
And Lunges has said in chat that Union 10 is a grouping of miscellaneous Division I schools. So that's where that affiliation comes from. And then on the west side, this is a fun one. I don't think it's any kind of scary grouping, but you got Texas Tech, UTD, UTA, and Idaho State in the West Central Conference. And I mean, I don't think these guys will be winning any championships, but that's a pretty interesting battle for this conference.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun to watch. There's storylines to write about all of these conferences. Again, it's unfortunate that NACE does not get to cover as much of these teams.
Yeah.
I believe they do offer team streams, not from outsiders, I think from the schools themselves. I will say this, I'm going to do my best to try and help cover some games this year. Because I know that obviously MrBepic has his hands full with the night light show matches, and there is a world we can actually get some NACE matches on there as well. I guess that's totally legal and doable. So hopefully we will have some information regarding covering these teams and really getting to watch these games. But as of right now, it's just a matter of time, and you'll have to go over on NACE's website and come on to the League Spot site that we're on right now, because all of these results should be posted by end of night tonight, and with maybe a few straggling reschedules tomorrow or Wednesday. So it'll be a lot of fun. Super Conference has a lot of early CRL implications, especially after Winthrop and St. Clair go head-to-head.
I mean, the majority of teams right here are top 20 teams in CRL. So we'll be covering the Super Conference weekly. And then probably the Union 10 as well has some good CRO results. And the rest will kind of probably skip over as results come in. But NACE is looking pretty good, looking pretty interesting when it comes to where the collegiate scene's at. So good on NACE for putting together some interesting matches that hopefully we can stream or cover in a way that isn't just results watching. But some other results to look at here. I'm going to briefly make sure my spreadsheets are good, because there's some regional leagues that I want to cover. Oh yeah, and time as well. Oh my god. Okay. Yeah, it's 6:30 Central. We're gonna speed run because Monday Night Lights is coming up. So okay, we'll shift.
We can talk about Power Esports real quick. We can briefly go over that.
Okay, let's talk Power Esports. They just announced this a LAN for the Power Esports conference happening at Syracuse, and I'm stoked about this. This is, I think, only one official PEC match. I think Syracuse and Michigan State is an official PEC match, and the rest is just for show. But Boise State, Nebraska, Michigan State, and Syracuse are all playing on LAN at Syracuse, which is extremely exciting here.
Yeah, PEC has always been big on building facilities and hosting LANs on campuses. I'm a big advocate for how PEC has decided to run their league. Obviously, within the first year, I was a little confused because it seemed like a big private thing, but now I'm seeing the long-term vision. Yeah. PEC is meant to be a showcase league for these schools and their students. I know Syracuse is going to be using student production, which I obviously value that a hell of a lot. Sean Kelly will be on the desk as well for that, running the show, who is an incredible award-nominated director in our space. The only thing I want to say about this, and yes, I'm glad you highlighted that because I'm going to let you talk about that. My main point is I don't know who decided to make Syracuse and Michigan State play and then make Northeastern and Boise State play, because I believe like these are just show matches. I mean, they are show matches. I don't think they're supposed to be an actual, or sorry, my bad, Nebraska. I don't think it's an actual bracket that they're doing, but if it is a bracket, this is awful seating. That's all. That's the only bad thing I want to say about this, but this is awesome. Will be a must-watch event on September 20th.
Yeah, Nebraska versus Boise is coughing baby versus atom bomb, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
That should be a 3-0. Boise should have no trouble beating Nebraska, but Syracuse, Michigan State's a real good matchup. So that's it's a mini bracket there, and the special guest is unannounced, and I don't know when that surprise is being released, but I do know who the special guest is. I'm just gonna gatekeep from everyone. So going to move on from that, still speed running. Let's talk about Dart's top 50. This was released today on the Colleague post, or on the Colleague Twitter account, and you're gonna have to give me a second to make this look good, but I'll switch over to it. He released a full top 50 ranking here in response, I imagine, to our power rankings. We set the tone, and then he followed it up, but this is who he has in his top 50, and I liked some of the York edition. I like the Brock edition. I think those are good shouts. And this is a pretty decent preseason ranking, I think.
Yeah, you want to talk about the overall kind of like get a feeler on how the community is feeling going into the preseason. I think putting a top 50 out there, big shout out to Dart for Dart, for even making this happen, because again, we talked about it last show. Trying to rank the top 36 was hard, or 32 was hard enough. I can't imagine 36. I can't imagine 48. I can't imagine 50. So big shout out to Dart. I will say there are some hot takes that are on this compared to ours. I think our biggest 2 points are going to lie within Baylor and St. Edwards.
Yeah.
We definitely disagree heavily with him on some of those teams. Illinois State, a really kind of big, that's probably the most confusing pick on this list for me personally. But that's just my takes on it.
Yeah, I mean, if Illinois State is playing with that same roster and they are actually in a form that's comparable to how they used to look, I think that having them top 32 makes sense. Baylor, I think, is too high with JT in the lineup. Same with George Mason. I assume he's assuming that Memory is playing for the first month, which he's not, which is why you and I had them so low in our rankings, because Proto is in. I think that is a significant gap. But outside of that, I mean, Drexel being 32, considering their recent results, is maybe a stretch. But like you said, it's tough to rank the top 32. Cleveland State did get rocked by CSU Northridge, so I don't know how good that roster is going to be right now. But that was also a CCS match, so I don't know. All of his entire rankings, I think you can make arguments for each team here. Shawnee State in the top 50 maybe could be a little bit higher considering their form against WCTC, but he's also got them fairly low. So I don't know. It's a preseason ranking, and okay, yeah, that's another one. Skyline has ETSU. He says they are too low as well. That's something that you and I had, but I think quickly learned from everybody that ETSU was much better than 29 or 27 wherever we had them.
There's just too many rosters that I don't have any experience seeing. Like again, this scene, the way CRL is, in terms of talent and in terms of depth, it is way harder than North American RLCS to stay alive.
Yeah,
and I'm gonna stand on that. Because there's just simply too much variety in these schools. There's too many rosters that are half rank X and then partially rank B or something like that. I also glazed over this the first time. You don't have to throw the graphic back up there, but Fisher at 14, I'm just gonna let that marinate for a little bit. I don't agree with that one by any means. But again, whenever we make our own rankings, which we'll probably start with Colleague in the next week or two, we'll have to go from there, and then we can compare and argue and all of that. And then we're gonna have bragging rights once the first CRL event rolls around. But that probably won't happen until October at this rate. So we go Scenic City Invitational. That's going to be our first main point.
Yeah.
We go NACE, NECC. Then we finally will get CRL, hopefully. So we got more arguments to make. I don't want to waste too much time. But Fisher 14 is the worst pick on there. I'm sorry, Dart. That's my take.
Well, here, we can shift that into discussing tonight's Monday Night Lights slate. And I don't think I've talked too much about Monday Night Lights and Tuesday Night Lights on the podcast. But this is the lineup for tonight. It starts in 25 minutes. East Tennessee State versus Bruton Parker Christian University. A preview, I think, of what the Southeastern Esports League is going to have as their finals come the end of the fall split. But this is the big test for ETSU. If they can back up what everyone's saying about them and look really good against Bruton Parker tonight, then I think I have no problems shifting them up in my rankings, because this is, it's a show match, yes, but this is still a resume building slate for these schools. Columbia College with Rhyolite against Indiana Tech, who want to be higher than 23, where we had them on our rankings. And then obviously the big one, Kernovi and Kennesaw State against Nolly and St. Edwards tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern time. Like this, they're show matches, yes, but still a good chance for these rosters to prove they are in good form.
I mean, good on Bruton Parker as well, who just continuously puts themselves on the chopping block. This is a very well-coached roster. I know that Corrupt is going to be grinding replays out with them before 8 o'clock, which I'm sure they already have been for weeks now. I have a lot of respect for what they're trying to do. And a win against ETSU could be something that puts Bruton Parker further than top 20. In my eyes, I think this is a win or a result that could put them really in that top 20 comfortably. And it's going to raise a lot of eyebrows towards ETSU, especially with how Kasai and Faris looked on the Fisher roster with Justice last year, who really struggled in the back half. I mean, they really lost their flow. So I'm excited to see. Indiana's been talking a lot. Columbia hasn't been talking at all. That'll be a really fun one to watch. Rhyolite at Columbia. I mean, I'm all sat down for that one. And then, of course, me and you will both be on the desk for the Kernovi versus Noli show, for the Flitz versus Wellis show, for the TNT versus Tater show. I mean, it's almost a storybook how that one should be, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, so I hope you're all in twitch.tv/MrBepic tonight for this lineup, because it is the greatest set of show matches I think the CRL scene has ever seen. So super stoked about that. It is coming up after this show. But you have any predictions you want to throw down, TJ, or you just want to watch tonight?
Let's throw that up one more time. Well, let me get some down here. All our best of sevens, correct?
Yes, all best of sevens.
All right, you know what? This is Georgia bias. Give me Bruton Parker. I think if they don't win it in 5, they're going to lose track. So I'm going to say Bruton Parker gets the early lead. They win it in 5. That's a really bold result, I know. I think what's more realistic is ETSU in 6. But I'm going to stick with Bruton Parker because I have to.
Okay.
All right. Give me Columbia to shut the haters up and give me them in 6. Actually, give me them in 7. And then let's go St. Edwards, Kennesaw State. Give me I think Kronovi's ready to go.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that roster on paper, I think if TNT's been playing like on 20 or 30 past 2 this summer, he should be easily able to handle Tater in terms of that 1v1. I think Kennesaw gets this one because it's a new roster. I think they win it in 5 over St. Edwards. I think it's going to be a messy game, but Kennesaw State tends to thrive. I'm thinking DreamHack Atlanta last year.
Also, I completely forgot about this point. I didn't put it in the runner show, so I forgot. But everyone listening right now, Kronovi made his CRL debut on Sunday. He made it yesterday. And I made a video about this, actually. I put it on YouTube, but didn't say anything about it on socials. And so I'm going to put it up on screen real fast because it is newsworthy, and we don't have much time to talk about it. But Kennesaw State with Dylan instead of TNT in the lineup. It was Kronovi, Flitz, and Dylan. They played in the Peach Belt Conference, their week 1 matchup against Huntington College, who you won't know anything about unless you watch my show matches and the one night they were playing, or know about them from when I coached there. But this was Kronovi's official CRL debut. It was a 3-0 over Huntington College, which is a team of essentially low SSLs, and they were 2 1-goal games. And Dylan had a spectacular double tap own goal in one of those games. But look, 3-0, Kennesaw State get their first win on the season here.
Look, there's a lot of eyebrows that could be raised at this result. I'm on the exact opposite side. Kennesaw State loves to make series messier than they need to be. Like, they do this every year, time and time again, and that's not entirely a bad thing because they are so used to it. This is why I'm still going to ride with them going into that St. Edwards series, because it's going to get messy. It's going to be extremely concerning high-level CRL Rocket League. But again, this is what Kennesaw State does, and Kronovi has experienced everything that professional Rocket League has had to offer since the dawn of time. I mean, he is the star that exploded and kicked off. He is the Big Bang of CRL, of Rocket League. That's just how it is. And Kronovi is definitely not going to get flustered under a show match, especially going against Noli as well. I'm going to ride Kennesaw State still, and I'm not concerned at this result.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they were definitely messing around for portions of it. If you want to watch these replays, they're on Ball Chasing, number 1, but number 2, I did watch them this morning and record myself watching them and talking about it. So that's on my YouTube. I think the link's in my Twitch chat, but it's just MrBepic on YouTube if you want to go check that out. But I thought it was cool, so I was looking through it, and there's some messy plays, but Kennesaw State do look good. Even with Dylan in the starting lineup, they still looked quite good. So that is that I wanted to talk about. And the last thing we can do, I think, are our accolades of the week. These are big time. Everyone respects the accolades. Mirrored, after being announced your player of the week, put it in his Discord bio that he was the Collegiate Exclusive Player of the Week. So, everyone knows they matter. So TJ, do you want the honors kicking off since your player of the week was so excited last time?
I would love to. I also will say that we cannot show the proof of Mirrod's Discord profile picture because his picture is a little concerning and not friendly. So you're just going to have to go on our word and his Discord bio. That's what it says. Here's what I will go with today. Let's kick it off with a more obvious pick. I'm going to go with my team of the week, and then I'll do my player.
Okay.
I'm going with Maryland. This is a roster that was slept on all through last semester, showed up to Myrtle Beach, looked wonderful. Hexy looks awesome at all times.
Always.
Easily the player that you look out for on that roster. I hate that Waiter is not playing anymore. As he's just such a fun guy to be around. But this Maryland roster is a lot of fun to watch. And them handling Texas A&M in a 3-0 makes me feel good about their chances at, again, a random side land like a Bluegrass Boost battle, like a Boost on the Beach. I think they can make that, and I think they can excel at those events as well. But they have a long way to go because CRL only gets harder. Do you want me to go ahead and do my player, or should I wait?
Go for it.
Okay, my player of the week is somebody who actually plays in less than an hour. I'm going to Baylor, and I'm asking JT specifically. This is more of a call-out than a player of the week, but I think it has the potential for JT to really showcase to the world what Baylor is all about, because he's been at that school. He's been brewing, and all of a sudden you get Hawkser and Andy who walk in the front door. So JT is somebody who we know nothing about, but that's why he's my player of the week. The complete hidden factor, who I really hope plays incredibly tonight against, now I'm forgetting. They play, hold on, I have it pulled up somewhere. Yes, they play Bruton Parker.
Adam versus his old school.
Yes, it's about as cinematic as it gets. I really like the odds of a new player under Stanley doing well, as he's done with Manny, as he's done with Antics, as he's done with Milk. I really like his odds. We'll see how he does tonight.
Yeah, things we know about JT. He's a senior. He's a low SSL. He was always plan B at Baylor in case their other recruits fell through. And the rest he's got to prove himself. So
He's been ready.
We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Sometimes CRL does that to you. 1 minute you're playing on a team of 1800s. The next minute you're playing with Andy and Hoxer. But my player is the complete opposite vein. My player of the week is Kronovi for getting his first CRL W yesterday in the Peach Belt Conference, which does lead to a LAN, so it does matter, those wins. So well done, Kronovi. I think that kid's got some talent, and I'm going to make that same joke again tonight when he scores his first goal of the series against St. Edwards. But he's my player of the week. And then team of the week, it's obvious. UNC Charlotte. They come out, they go 2-0 in the Night Lights Invitational, and they prove some haters wrong and end up beating Texas A&M and San Diego State. Despite a little bit of a labored effort, they did go 2-0, and that is what matters.
Again, there's just so many results that have yet to come that we will know by the end of tonight. I mean, I'm probably going to be watching the NACE games on one monitor while I'm getting ready to cast the KSU St. Edwards match. So we may even get to talk about some of them tonight before we end off BePic Stream. I'm just so excited, man. CRL is finally back, and it's only getting better, and it's only getting more entertaining from here. So hopefully we get all of this into a wonderful Worlds Week, Worlds Weekend. Hopefully a great announcement, maybe UE5. It could be a really good semester for CRL and for Rocket League as a whole, and I hope that all of it can come together within the next 7 days. But time will tell.
All right, I'm going to end the podcast a little bit early so that I can set up for Monday Night Lights because this is a big one, and I hope Discord is functioning. We started a bit late because of Discord, but it is what it is. It was a bit scrambled tonight, but one last time, tune in for Monday Night Lights. Oops, I just refreshed the page. That's the slate. East Tennessee State versus Bruton Parker Christian University is the first best of 7. Then Indiana Tech versus Columbia College, and Kennesaw State against St. Edwards to cap off the night. Some major RLCS LAN winners on Monday Night Lights. I did not expect this would ever happen, but here we are. Big time Monday in the CRL space because the fall semester is back. So as always, thank you all so much for watching Collegiate Exclusive. Follow me and TJ on socials. Follow the podcast on Spotify. Please go follow us there. Rate us 5 stars. Listen when you can. It helps the algorithm, I'm sure. Same on YouTube. But yeah, that does it. That is it. I'm going to break. I will see you all in 10 minutes now for Monday Night Lights. Be there.